Hi, guys. Let's talk about plot structure. So, the plot is the storyline of a show. That was one of the words that you learned in Theater 1, Part 1. Let's learn a little bit more about the structure of plots. So, if you look at this diagram, it's sort of got it all laid out with a couple of different vocab words that'll be on our final exam. So, the first part is the exposition of a story. Exposition of the story is all the background information that we need to know about the story for it all to make sense. The next piece is the inciting incident. This is the thing that starts the story going. So you have background information that we kind of need to know, but then there's inciting incident is the stuff that really gets things going and starts the story moving along. And then it's full of conflicts along the way. And those conflicts are part of this rising action. What it means is that everything is building. It's all building up. The conflicts, all of that is building up to the climax of the show. And I think most people understand what the climax of a show is, that it's the most exciting part of the show, the moment where everything is kind of on the line. And after that, we call it the falling action of the show. And it's the stuff that's wrapping up the story. All the big stuff has been taken care of, but now these are just the little pieces are all getting, all of those things are calming everything down. And then eventually you end with the resolution, or if you want to learn a cool French word, denouement. The denouement. And that just means the same thing. It's the resolution of the play. So I'm going to take you through Finding Nemo. I think most people know Finding Nemo. And we're going to go through this plot structure. So the exposition of Finding Nemo, you guys know it. It's that we've got Marlin and his wife, and they have these little fish egg babies. And what is the thing that happens in that very beginning information or the very beginning of the show that's kind of important? The barracuda. The barracuda comes and eats Nemo's mom. Yeah. So that's information we need to know. We need to know that Nemo is the only baby that survived. And so now it's just a team of Marlin and Nemo. Okay, so then the story continues along, and we see Nemo's a little bit older. He's going to school. It's the first day of school, and Marlin doesn't really want him to go because he's worried about all sorts of bad things happening. So anyway, he lets Nemo go to school. What does Nemo do that changes the course of the story? He goes out, he sees a boat, and he goes out to touch the butt. And when he does that, that is where he gets kidnapped. That is the thing that incites the whole story happening. So we had our exposition, which was the barracuda and the mom dying. And the inciting incident is that moment that really gets the story going, because if Nemo doesn't get kidnapped, is there really a story? It's pretty much just about him going to school, not having a great time, and then coming home. And then there's all sorts of conflicts that happen along the way. Marlin and Dory, they get involved with the sharks, they get involved with the jellyfish, and then on Nemo's side, there's the Darla situation. He is going to get given to Darla, and he's afraid that that means he's going to get killed by Darla. So those are all the conflicts. And it ultimately leads to this climax where Nemo and Marlin, they finally get to each other. They're in the dentist's office, and he goes down the drain, and then he's out in the little bay. And that is where he ultimately gets reunited with his dad. And then it's just the falling action from there. It's them going home. And the resolution, or the denouement of that story, is that it shows Nemo going back to school and having a lot of fun. And now Marlin is able to let his son go to school, and he doesn't worry so much. And he's also able to tell jokes for some reason. And Dory apparently lives with them. So all of those things are part of the plot structure of that story. I'm going to do one more just so that you get a really good idea of what all the pieces are. Shrek. So if you haven't seen Shrek the musical or Shrek the movie, I apologize. But in the story of Shrek, the exposition is that Shrek has a swamp. It kind of shows in the beginning that his family everyone's afraid of them. They're ogres, and everyone's afraid of them. And so he lives in a swamp to be alone. That's the exposition that is really important. The inciting incident is when what gets dropped off in his swamp? All of the fairy tale creatures. So Duloc has said that nobody gets to live there that is a fairy tale creature. So that starts the ball rolling. And the conflicts that they face along the way. So first Shrek has to leave because he's got to get rid of these fairy tale creatures. He meets Donkey, and then now they keep running into all sorts of issues. They have to overcome a dragon. They've got to save Fiona. They have, then there's all the conflict of the fact that Fiona is an ogre and she's afraid to tell. And so all of those conflicts are part of the rising action. And it's pretty clear in that movie where the climax is. It's that moment when the dragon comes in, when it's at the wedding and breaks through the window, and suddenly Fiona is going to be transformed out of being an ogre into being a beautiful woman again, and it doesn't end up happening. And that's part of the falling action of the show, is that the resolution for that show is that she realizes she's just fine being an ogre, and that's actually kind of better because now she and Shrek are the same, and then Donkey lives with them, right? And that's the resolution or the denouement of that story. So in this assignment, your job is to choose a story or a movie, and you are going to tell me all the pieces of that story. Tell me the name of the story first, and then say, what is the exposition? What is the inciting incident? What is the conflict? What are some of the conflicts that are part of this rising action? What is the climax? Tell us what the falling action is. And ultimately, what is the resolution or the denouement of your story?